Hey everybody, it's such a joy for me to be with all of you today. Thank you so much for dropping by. I just want to declare that God has great things in store for you as well. Today, I'm going to address a very important topic that a lot of people are struggling in their life. They know that God has called them to do certain things, or they know that this is what God has placed on the inside of them, or this is their desire, this is their wish, or this is God given, desire or dream or anything for that matter under the sun. They know that God has clearly given them a word in a certain direction concerning their life. But sometimes you may find yourself in a place where you're obligated to act against what you know God wants you to do. Sometimes you're obligated to do something that you know is against your wish. You're obligated to perform or say something, or maybe you should say but you want to say but you should not say, or you cannot say, or you want to do something but you're in a place where you cannot do it. There's certain times you realize that you're obligated to act, to perform, or say or do something that does not align with what you know God has called you to do or created you for, or the desires or ultimate purpose that God has for you, or certain things that God has clearly shown you in the spirit, or through dreams or visions, or through the Holy Spirit or through the word. But there are moments when you're obligated to do something that does not align with what God has told you, or you're obligated to do something that does not line up with what is your personality type, or does not align with who you are as an individual, and you have to compromise your true identity. What do you do in such cases? If you are in such a place in your life, I want you to stay tuned for the next couple of minutes, because this word will be a blessing to you. Now, first of all, before I go, I just want to encourage you to check out my daily podcast, because they've been doing really well, and they're currently, trending across many nations. And I encourage you to check them out daily, and I'm sure you will be greatly blessed. But here's the thing: I want to talk about the fact that sometimes you are obligated to do something that does not line up with what God has placed on the inside of you. You're obligated to do that something that does not align with who you are. And I want to talk to you today from Second Kings chapter 2. And this is what it is. All right, I'm reading from the NLT version. It says, when the Lord was about to take Elijah up to heaven in a whirlwind, Elijah and Elisha were traveling from Gilgal. Now remember, this is setting up a stage where it says that the Lord was about to take Elijah up to heaven. Now, this is like a breaking news of the day. This is like no questions asked. It was like a fact or truth, or the absolute truth for that day. It was not something relative. It was not something that Elijah thought that he was going to go to heaven, or it was not something that Elisha thought that Elijah's last day on planet Earth. It was not something that some people thought, or maybe, or could be. It was not like that. It was like a public news, or a public thing that everybody knew. But today is the last day for Elijah on planet Earth. He's about to be taken up to heaven. That was the kind of a setting you see in this first verse of Second Kings chapter 2. Now when you go down, all right, so it sets up the stage that he's going to go to heaven that day. Now verse 3, a group of prophets from Bethel came to Elisha and asked him, did you know that the Lord is going to take your master away today? Did you know that the Lord is going to take your master today? It's not a question of, do you think that the Lord is going to take, or maybe the Lord might take, maybe this is Elijah's last day on planet Earth. They didn't ask such a question. They were asking, like, do you know that the Lord is going to take him today? In other words, it was like a question where we say, do you know that the sun is going to rise in the morning? Do you know that it's going to rain, or when it's a rainy day, or something like that? It is something that you just realize, like, it's a fact, and there's no questions attached. It's something like that. Do you know that right after Sunday comes Monday? Do you know? It is something like that, right? It's a known fact. No arguments based on that. That is the kind of a setting you see here. It was a first verse 1 says that there was a public display that today is final day for Elijah. And here in verse 3 you see these prophets from Bethel are coming and saying, do you know that today the Lord is going to take your master away? Verse 5 you see again the group of prophets from Jericho came to Elisha and asked him, do you know that the Lord is going to take your master from you today? Again, you see, it's not something just Elijah or Elisha thought about. The group of prophets from Bethel had the same idea. They knew for a fact that today was the last day for Elijah. A group of prophets from Jericho had the same idea that today is the day that Elijah is going to be taken into heaven. It was like a known fact. And each time Elisha says, of course I know, of course I know. Verse 3 also he says the same thing, and he replies again in verse 5 saying, of course I know that today is the day that Elijah is going to be taken to heaven. So it's like a known fact. Now let's fast forward a little bit to the fact that Elijah is actually taken to heaven. All right. But here's the thing. There was something that you have to remember. Now let's go down to verse 15. All right. When a group of prophets from Jericho saw from a distance whatever happened. Okay. Remember that they all came and they said with the fact that yes, today is Elijah's last day on planet Earth. He's going to be taken up to heaven. There was no questions attached. There was no argument about it. It was like a known fact. All right. But here's these people actually saw what happened from a distance. All right. You see that Elijah was taken up to heaven and Elisha's returning. Okay. Here's the thing. Now here's the climax of the scene. All right. They come back and they say a word. Verse 16. All right. Say a word, and 50 of our strongest men will search the wilderness for your master. Bam. What was going on here? These were the very prophets who believed in this news, the national news, televised news, or whatever you can say it. You know what? Today is the day Elijah is going to be taken up to heaven. Today is the day that Elijah is, leaving planet Earth and going to heaven. That was the kind. And these were the prophets who came to Elisha and asked him, do you know that today your master is going to be taken to heaven? And these very prophets are coming and saying, perhaps you have to give us a word. We will go and search for Elijah. Bam. Were they even, hallucinating, or what's wrong with them? I mean, they were the very ones who said for a fact that Elijah is going to go to heaven. And here they are coming and saying, say us a word. Let us go and search for Elijah. I mean, it looks like an utter like a contradiction, right? It looks like, oh my goodness, what is this? And Elisha says, no, don't send him. But you see, verse 17 says, but they kept urging him until they shamed him into agreeing. And he finally said, right, send him. So 50 men searched for 3 days but did not find Elijah. And Elisha was still at Jericho when they returned. And he said, did I not tell you not to go? Now, I want you to understand something here. Elisha was adamant. He said, I mean, come on, guys, don't send. It's a waste of time. Because we know for a fact that Elijah has gone to heaven. Now, there's no point in us wasting our time and energy searching for Elijah right now. But what you realize is these people were urging him, or they were pressurizing him and saying, say it, give us a word, give us a word. Now, you see, if Elisha refused to send, people can come up with 100 theories. They could say Elisha is scared because now that Elijah is not there, Elisha has taken his place, or the successor. So maybe Elisha does not care about Elijah. Or they could come up with the conclusion that maybe Elisha does not want Elijah to return, because if he returns, then again Elisha will be under Elijah. He can't be the leader. They can come up with 127 theories. So what you realize is at that moment, Elisha was pressured or obligated to send the men to go and search for Elijah, even though it was of no use, even though he didn't want to do it. It was against his wish, it was against what the Lord had already portrayed and given it to the spirit of people, that today was the last day for Elijah. It was against what God had ordained, it was against what he had wished for, but he was obligated to do it either way. My question to you is, are you in places like that where you're pressured to act against what God has placed on the inside of you? Pressure to act against what God has already shown you? Pressure to act against what is in your spirit, or what God has put in your desires? Pressure to act against your personality? Sometimes you will be pressured. Elijah was pressured. Sorry, Elisha was pressured. But that's where I want you to understand something very important here. Even though he was pressured to act, sometimes you may be pressured to act or obligated to act, but that's when you learn to trust God and say, God, you take care of my reputation. Now you may say, why would that come on Elisha? Now think about it. If a government fails, in anything, if any of their missions or if their policies fail or anything, who would they blame? They would always blame the the face of the government, right? For example, if it's the United States, maybe if a policy doesn't work out, everybody's blame will be upon the president. If it's some nation like India, any policy doesn't work out, the blame will come upon the prime minister. So it's like the face of the government. You get what I'm saying? Now you got to remember, Elisha is in a similar position. He's like the face of all the prophets. So if this thing that the prophets did, it's like the first mission of Elisha, it looks like his first mission failed. Even though in the literal sense it was against Elisha's wish, but he was pressured to do it, pressured to give consent, and it flopped. His mission failed. Now, in a literal sense, it looked like Elisha's first mission itself failed. Now, sometimes you may be pressured to act against what God has put on the inside, and you may say, John, I am pressured. I was pressured to do this, and now everything is a failure and a flop, and people are laughing at me. This guy is the leader, and look, his first mission itself failed. But I didn't want to do it, John, but I was pressured to do it. Well, that's what I want you to understand. That is the place that Elisha was. But eventually, God will take you to a place where, like Elisha said, did I not tell you? In other words, Elisha got an opportunity where he was vindicated. You may be pressured to act against your wish at certain points, but that's the place you need to trust God and say, God, I'm pressured. I don't know what else to do. I can't do anything else. But I trust you. I look up to you. And I want you to understand, God will vindicate you. God will give you the vindication that is required. And at the right time, He will definitely, definitely, definitely vindicate you as well. So that's what I want you to have as a hope for your life. And I want you to, say, John, you may say, I'm pressured to act against what God has put on the inside of me, but I'm still going to do it because I trust in God. Just like Elisha was vindicated, you will definitely be vindicated. And it's such a joy. Pastor has joined us, his word. Thank you so much, Pastor. Blessings to you as well, and for all the work that you're doing. Those of you watching, maybe now or later, I encourage you to check out his channel for great content. I'm sure you'll be blessed by it as well. And those of you watching, I just want to remind you and remember. I want you to remember this. All right, the simple word that I wanted to share. Number one is that no matter what, if you're obligated to act against what God has given you, shown you, or obligated to act against what God has put on the inside of you, or you're obligated to act against your personality type, just do, because you're pressured to do it. Just do. If you don't have any other way out, just do it. But learn to trust that God is in control and He knows how to vindicate you as well. In my life, I've seen this so many times. I'm pressured to act in a certain way. I'm pressured to say certain things, or pressured to not say some things, or things like that. But you know what? That's all right. God knows what is best, and He knows how to vindicate you, and He will show yourself to be in the right at the right time. So, Lord, I pray for those who are listening or watching from across the globe. I pray that this word will resonate with them. If they go through a moment or season in their life and they feel like, oh my goodness, John, I'm obligated to do something that I don't want to do. I'm obligated or pressured to say something that I don't want to say. It's against what God has put on the inside of me. It's against the very fabric of what God has shown me, but I'm pressured to do it. Well, in that case, God will give you the strength to do it, but eventually, God will help you see the victory. Eventually, God will vindicate you. And eventually, you will see that it may look like, your mission failed. It may look like you're a failure. It may look like you were stupid. But I want you to hold on and be strong and courageous. And remember that God, the God who we look up to, knows how to vindicate you and show you to be in the right. I hope you're blessed by this short word. I just wanted to drop by, and I encourage you once again to like, comment, share, subscribe, and also check out my daily podcast. By the grace of God, they're doing really well. I encourage you to check them out. I'm sure it'll be a great blessing to you. Check out my books and check out other content on the YouTube channel. Connect with me. Would love to hear from you. Thank you so much, and God bless you. Bye.